What's up, Jaguar fans? So the trade deadline is rapidly approaching. It is upcoming this Monday, October 31st, which is actually Halloween. And, a lot of Jaguar fans are talking about, the trade block. Who could the Jaguars trade for? Who might the Jaguars actually trade away? The big question is, will the Jaguars be buyers or sellers? And I know trade deadline is a funny time because you're either a good team that gets better because they trade for players that are good to try to help them make their Super Bowl run, or you are a bad team that gets worse as you trade away some of your best players to prepare for an event called the NFL Draft that is literally a half a year away. So it's quite the interesting time, and it really kind of gives you an example of really where you are at as a franchise. So the big question is, will the Jaguars be buyers or sellers? I'm not too sure. We're going to go through different players that the Jaguars could potentially trade, or guys that, maybe there are some articles written about it, or there are, maybe some speculation amongst Jaguar fans about potentially trading a guy. We'll go through the whole list. So the first one, the Jaguars have traded James Robinson. I know that was a question about what the Jaguars would do with him. Especially after really his role seemed to have decreased on the Jaguars. The Jaguars shipped him out for a 6th-round pick. As long as he gets 240 rushing yards, that will turn into a 5th-round pick. So that is done. One guy that is mainly being talked about amongst Jaguar fans is Jawaan Taylor. Jawaan Taylor is the Jaguar starting right tackle. He has played every single snap, or at least he started every single game since the Jaguars drafted him in 2019, and he's having a really good year. And this is a guy that the Jaguars might not be able to pay next year. Look, the Jaguars have a lot of money wrapped up in the offensive line between, left tackle Cam Robinson, right guard Brandon Sheriff, and then, maybe the Jaguars just can't afford Jawaan Taylor because as he's playing right now, he most likely prices us out. So now you're looking at it and you say, okay, if the Jaguars can't, if the Jaguars know, okay, this is not a guy that we're going to be able to prioritize re-signing because we need to focus on this, and that, could he be the guy that the Jaguars move? And what would you get for him? I mean, I would think that the Jaguars could probably easily get a 2nd-round pick for him. I don't really know how the NFL landscape is shaping out when it comes to the availability and how many right tackles have gone out, around the NFL. But if a team is at desperate need for one and they're trying to make a playoff push, he could be a guy that they trade for. Me personally, I wouldn't. Of course, there is a price for everything. You have to listen to every kind of trade call. Me personally, I wouldn't give him up mainly because right now on the offensive line, you just can't, you got to be as good as you can at the offensive line. And the offensive line, that's what's protecting Trevor Lawrence. And I know everyone can say their own thing about Trevor Lawrence, but, look, the franchise is going to, go to the top or go to the bottom of the NFL under Trevor Lawrence, depending on how he plays. And that is the most important asset on this team. So that guy has to be protected. And losing Jawaan Taylor would ultimately hurt that. So I'm keeping Jawaan Taylor just due to the fact that, he helps with the run game. He's also going to help keep Trevor Lawrence clean. He's been beat a few times. Hassan Reddick really had his way with him, but overall, that's the guy that I keep, but we'll see. Another guy is Josh Allen. Now, his name has been brought out in a bunch of national reports that teams are interested in calling about him. Now, that doesn't mean that the Jaguars are actively shopping him. And if I were the Jaguars, I would accept trade calls just because, like I said, you listen to everything. And everything in life, whenever there's opportunity, if you're working at a job and other jobs are looking at you, you gotta keep the line open. You gotta see what else is out there. You gotta see what your worth is. And the Jaguars need to see what their worth is with Josh Allen. But at the end of the day, I would not trade him. I would not trade him. I know Brian Burns from the Carolina Panthers apparently they want 2 first-round picks for him. I would be about the same with Josh Allen, and I probably would not do it. Josh Allen, he's a guy. He's not a he's not a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL, but he's a guy that he's been the only player on the Jaguars that is, over the course of his career, has been able to get consistent pressure on the quarterback. It doesn't always lead to sacks, but he's a disruptor. And look, the Jaguars, they got rid of Josh Allen. That creates a huge hole at the position. Right now, you drafted Trayvon Walker number 1 in the draft. You drafted him there, and you said, okay, now we got a good 2 edge rusher duo to be able to get after the quarterback. I know Trayvon Walker isn't doing that now because he really doesn't have a whole set of pass rushing moves, but we kind of knew that coming in. He's been pretty good against the run, but he's a guy that looked like if Trayvon Walker can develop his pass rushing moves next year, then Josh Allen could just keep doing his thing. I just wouldn't let go of Josh Allen. That's creating a huge hole, and who's to say that if you trade for him, you get 2 first-round picks, and you get another ETN and Caleb Chase on. I wouldn't do it. I would keep him around. So I would listen to it. But, I think Josh Allen is a true franchise corner piece. He's been a stand-up guy. He loves Jacksonville, and he's just what the Jaguars don't do, and the Jaguars are notorious for this, and the Jaguars need to show that they are different than this, but their homegrown talent, they don't necessarily pay them. We go out. Did you see the list of guys that we paid this offseason? That has to turn around. That has to change. We had to turn that. And of course, we had to go out and spend guys because our current players on the roster, nobody was worth re-signing. But we need to keep drafting and re-signing our own guys. That's just how it needs to start going down. So Josh Allen, I will not trade him. Now the last guy, this is just more of a hope by the fan base, but Jaguars cornerback Shaquille Griffin. It's funny because Jaguars fans are like, oh my gosh, Shaquille Griffin has been so bad and he has a bad contract. We need to go trade him. But if you're the other team, why would you want to trade for a cornerback that hasn't been great with a contract that is very expensive? I don't see it happening. And the thing is, Griffin, we have an out with him next year, so he can be very easily cut next year. But I think for now, you're kind of hanging on to Shaquille Griffin and, just kind of going forward with that. So those are the 3 guys, I should say, since James Robinson is gone. These are the 3 guys that could have some trade value. Of course, maybe there's some maybe some other guys, like maybe a backup cornerback or something that could get moved. I don't think there's much else, though. That's about it. So next up, we'll go into guys that maybe the Jaguars can target. The Jaguars might be able to... Now, sorry, I got a text. Now, when it comes to guys that I would target, I'm going to target position-specific players that are going to help us toward the future mostly. Like, if you're going to trade for a guy and he has a decent-sized contract, I want to make sure that, this guy could be in our plans into the future, and especially if you're going to give up like a day 2 pick. If it is a day 2 pick, they had to have more years than free agent and 2023 type of stuff. And also, I would like to focus on guys on rookie deals. A main reason for that is because the Jaguars are going to be in a little bit of a cap situation next year. Nothing like terrible, but we're going to have to do some maneuvering, cutting some players, trimming the roster. Yeah, with that said, I'm kind of targeting guys that are on favorable contracts. Now, some positions we could go for: wide receiver, tight end, cornerback, and interior defensive line are some positions that I'm looking at. And it feels like there's a lot of wide receivers available. Now, DJ Moore is a guy that that might be thrown out there. And look, before I get into this, the type of rookie or the type of receiver I'm going for is I'm going for like a true vertical threat. I'm not going for a 5'10 receiver that plays most of the time out of the slot because we have Christian Kirk. What we don't have, our offense is missing that vertical threat, throw the ball down the field and get it to him. So, yeah, and DJ Moore, honestly, he fits in perfect with that role, with that vertical threat. He would be great in this offense. However, he just signed a 3-year, $61 million contract, and the Jaguars have a lot of money invested in wide receiver right now when it comes to guys like Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. Like, we're really not in a position where we can allocate more money toward the wide receiver position. So, with that said, I think DJ Moore is out. One intriguing name is Broncos wide receiver Jerry Jeudy. He's not set to be a free agent until 2024, and he's a first-round pick, so you have you have control over him until 2025, and his asking price is pretty high, and he hasn't really been living up to his true expectations as a first round pick. He's been injured. He's kind of suffered from drops. However, he is a great route runner, gets great separation, and it just hasn't really clicked for him over in Denver. I'd probably give a third round pick for him. I don't know if I would give a second, because our second round pick is probably going to be in the top half of the second round, and I think that might be a little bit rich, especially if maybe you're looking to draft a wide receiver in the first round next year. So with Jerry Jeudy, I don't know, and also the drops are concerning. Look, the Jaguars have enough guys that drop the ball, fumble the ball, whatever. And also injury sucks. I hate injured players. So, maybe that kind of takes us off of it a little bit, but the asking price is high. I wouldn't do a second round pick. I'd probably do a third round pick, but we'll see. We'll see what they wind up doing. Another guy is Brandon Cooks. He's plays for the Texans. No pun intended, but he has cooked us. Feels like every time he plays us. He's on a 2-year, $40 million deal. This one's a little bit tougher because, of course, his contract is a little bit high, but also he's a division opponent, and division guys don't like trading with division guys, especially something like this that's going to immediately make the Jaguars better. And I don't even know if they're really trying to trade him. But that's just whenever you look at a bad team, top five bad team in the NFL, you're like, oh, let's go find players from that might have some value somewhere else. So we'll see with that one. Another one is Elijah Moore. Now, Elijah Moore on the New York Jets has requested a trade, but I don't think the Jets are going to honor it. He was just drafted last year, but he, again, fits into that category of receivers that I don't think the Jaguars really need. 5'10", plays a lot out of the slot. A guy on the New York Jets that might be interesting is Denzel Mims. He's a lot bigger of a guy. He's more of a vertical threat, and I think he would be a lot cheaper. Like, I legitimately think that the Jaguars could use that James Robinson pick and maybe actually probably not, because the Jaguars probably could have just traded James Robinson for Denzel Mims. That's what we should have done. Now that I'm thinking about it, we should have just traded for Denzel, whatever. So honestly, New York Jets, the Jaguars traded them James Robinson. If they wanted any player from the Jets, then that probably gets packaged in there, but whatever. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. So I'm going to move on from that. Next up, and the last one is Chase Claypool from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers have let it known they're seeking a second rounder for Chase Claypool. Now, their receiving group, they have a lot of guys out there, but the core, when it comes to Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Chase Claypool, but the quarterback play has been very sketchy. They're a team that likes to commit to running the ball, and just the passing game has been a huge mess over there. But Chase Claypool, I'd like to figure out what his issue is. But he is that down and field guy. He is very, very intriguing. But man, I feel like you can probably, last year George Pickens went around that pick in the second round. You know what I mean? Second round, top of the second round, you can get a good receiver. I'm not trading probably any first or second round pick for a receiver unless they are truly elite. Chase Claypool, he has a couple years left on his deal, but yeah, I don't know if I'm trading a second round pick for him. Now, that kind of concludes the wide receivers. At the end of it, I'll kind of give a recap of what I think the Jags will do. Next up is tight end. The only tight end I really found, and I don't think there's going to be any merit to this, but Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts in that Atlanta Falcons offense, they're just allergic to passing the ball. I don't know why they draft Kyle Pitts in the first round at number 4 overall. Then the following year, they decide to draft Drake London in the top 10 when they don't even want to pass the ball. It's just very, very strange to me. I don't know if they're not passing the ball because they don't trust Marcus Mariota, but at the same time, they have Arthur Smith, who ran the Tennessee Titans offense, who, that was led by Derrick Henry, and, they had a quarterback over there in Ryan Tannehill that was more of a game manager, but they still found ways to get the ball to their tight ends and their receivers, but the same thing is not happening in Atlanta. So I don't know if they're maybe saying, okay, we want to try to get a quarterback. They've actually been winning some games, so they might not be drafting as low as people once thought. So maybe they say, okay, maybe we could potentially trade Kyle Pitts for, Kyle Pitts, I might even be willing to I don't know, maybe not a first round pick, but maybe like a second and a third for him. But we'll see with that one. We'll see with that one. But Kyle Pitts is a really good player, but he just hasn't been doing a lot this year. And really, man, that'd be a huge thing for the Jaguars because he's a big guy. He can line him up all over the field, and he can be a down the field threat. So I don't think it's going to happen, but that one's intriguing. Now, next up is cornerback. Cornerback is a need for the Jaguars. Some names out there are William Jackson III. He's a cornerback for the Commanders. I think he said before the season he wanted a trade. He does. I don't know if it's going to be possible because the Jaguars trade for him. He has like a $9 million dead cap hit next year, and I just don't know if that's going to be something that the Jaguars are going to want to take on. The more realistic guy is Bryce Hall for the New York Jets. The Jets drafted him in the 5th round of 2020. And he's been pretty good for the Jets, although they drafted Sauce Gardner. And they have a few things going on over there where he has been kind of sent to be a backup. And, with him, and I said Bryce Hall. It's not Brees Hall, it's Bryce Hall. Believe it or not, he's the cornerback. But he'll probably be a little bit cheaper. And if all goes as planned for the New York Jets, this guy never starts another game. So that's a guy that the Jaguars could potentially get for a day 3. But once again, it's the Jets. We could have traded James Robinson for him. Man, this video is making me angry as I'm going through it and realizing we could have got either Bryce Hall or Denzel Mims for James Robinson. I would have done either of those instead of the 5th round pick that's going to turn into some D3 cornerback, but whatever. Moving on. That's all I got for cornerback. I don't know a lot about the cornerbacks. I'll be honest with you. I'm not an NFL guy. I'm your regular 9 to 5 worker that just likes football. Okay, I'm a fan like you guys, so I'm not truly. I don't do this full time, so I don't know all the guys around the NFL. Another guy I know about, interior defensive lineman Matt Ioannidis. I don't think I said that right, but he's playing with the Panthers. This one's intriguing. He's 28 years old, and he's only on a 1-year deal. The Jaguars have done several deals with the Carolina Panthers. I think this is one where, Panthers are going to be, actually, it depends on this weekend. Look, the Falcons and Panthers are playing this weekend, and whoever wins that game has first place in the NFC South. So maybe they don't go into full sell mode, especially, they might trade guys for, first round picks, second, third round picks. But, when it comes to depth and keeping guys, I don't know if they're really wanting to stack on day 3 picks. But that's a guy that you might be able to get for a, day 3 pick. And, he's only on a 1-year deal. So maybe you go after that. Now, that's a list of guys. I don't know how it's going to work out. But what do I think the Jaguars do? I don't know, man. I don't think they're going to break the bank for anybody. I don't think they're trading any, day 1 or day 2 picks. Day 1, day 3, meaning any picks between rounds 1 through 3. I don't think they're going to, be a team that trades a 5th round pick for a guy that has a terrible contract. I just don't see that happening. I don't see us trading anybody away. I think the only thing that could happen is if the Jaguars maybe throw out a day 3 pick, get a interior defensive lineman or something in here, then we kind of roll with it like that. That's the main thing I see. But, we'll see what happens. Let me know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think the Jaguars go after anybody, or do you guys think the Jaguars stay quiet? We'll love to hear your thoughts. And with that said, that's all I got. I've taken enough of your time. Let me know what you think. Drop your thoughts down below. Like the video. I'll be coming out with a preview video maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I'll be honest with you guys. I've been so unmotivated to make Jaguars videos because we've been 2-5 right now. I'm just going to end it. Thanks, guys, for watching. Go Jags.